Hello, everyone. So I'm Elena. This is our sentiment analysis in memory computing lecture. So you'll be working with DB2 and R Studio in IBM Cloud environment. Okay. So here's the agenda. Basically, I'll talk to you about the do's and don'ts for your sentiment analysis tutorial walkthrough. I'll show you some common error, show you how to validate your data load. We'll do some SQL, right? Touch a little bit about the RStudio environment and the troubleshooting, and of course, your questions and answers, right? Like always. So here is a little bit of reminder. Where do you post your questions? If you have issues with launching DB2 service or anything that you need to troubleshoot the data load errors, perhaps. If you have issues with RStudio, things like that, that goes to where? Salesforce, right? General questions on due dates and how your work is being graded, that goes to in the classroom for instructor. And if the question is about your specific grade, anything confidential that instructor needs to know, that goes in email to instructor. And also we have a separate discussion for broken links, right? Once in a while, the resources get moved, etc. Right? So there is a discussion where you report the broken links, okay? It will be looked into. All right. So again, these are the important rules. They apply to a tutorial and to assignment 3. Please do not submit any tickets to IBM unless you're instructed to, and more likely you won't be. Do not cancel your IBM Cloud account, and please do not enter credit card number. Do not update the R version in the RStudio environment. Please do not add more than one DB2 instance. I don't know if you can, but on my account I can. But if you add 2 instances of DB2, sometimes you may forget where you uploaded the data and you will see no data, right? Please do not install R packages that are not approved. Do not open application in multiple browser tabs because, well, especially with R, right? If you manage to open R in more than one tab, you may end up consuming the hours twice faster, right? And if the data load is running, avoid stopping it, right? Avoid stopping running if the load is running, because what happens is the cancellation generates another process to undo the changes, and there could be issues, all right? So avoid copying code from Microsoft Word. Well, avoid pasting the SQL code in the Microsoft Word, because what happens is it introduces the characters such as Microsoft Word quote, and it ruins the code. Then sometimes there is no way to fix the damage, and you have to write the code all over. Trust me, before I started to be the TA in this program, I was TA in the GBST, and I TA'd Introduction to Database course. So the students had to write a lot of SQL code. And I do remember when they pasted the code in Microsoft Word, the code got ruined. And the night before the big assignment was due, the student had to redo the code from scratch. So Microsoft Word and other rich text editor may ruin SQL code. Microsoft Word quote is an example, right? And it's very difficult to fix. Avoid using the browser back buttons. Use the navigation menu. Then if you exit RStudio by clicking the browser X button, you keep consuming the hours. You need to run the Q command to exit RStudio, and then you also need to go back and make sure that you stop the environment, runtime environment, right? And please do not spend days on debugging the error. You need to ask for assistance. Only yesterday I found out that I'm not gonna call names, but it's sad. Only yesterday I found out that somebody had issues with the code for assignment 3. Why not assignment 2 rather? Why not to report it as it happens? Why sit and burn the capacity hours? You see what I'm saying? And please do not open the CSV file that you download. Well, what happens is that CSV file was edited in a text editor. There is something something has to do with the date format. I had to fix it by opening the CSV file in a text pad, right? But as soon as file is opened back in Excel, it's gonna ruin what I fixed, the date format. There is something with the date format that I had to physically fix in a text pad, okay? If you open the file for a fraction of a second, it for a million, for a trillionth of a second in the Excel, that's it. The file will be corrupted and you won't be able to load it to the DB2. So please, just download the file without opening. That will apply to the hotels data that you're gonna get today. Today you're gonna get examples with different data. Also, the same data set that you're given for this assignment and the data set for assignment 3. You need to don't open it, okay? Please don't open it. If you accidentally open it, delete the file and download the file from the classroom again, okay? I don't know how much to emphasize it, because if you open it for a fraction of a second even, it's gonna corrupt the date format. I had to fix the date format in a CSV, in a TextPad file for you, okay? Now, so let's look at the big picture. What do you have? You have a data, right? You have a data description. You're gonna read the data description and define the business problem. In this case, the business problem is looking at the airline review. Why some customers left the negative review? What are the main common problems with the flights, right? So that's a business problem. What exactly people say about the flight? What's a positive review? What's a negative, well, etc. What exactly, right? So then you take the data and you're gonna load it in the DB2 table. You're gonna check the log to make sure there are no issues. And I already troubleshooted the issues for you and fixed the file as much as I could. Then you're gonna check you're gonna save the screenshot of the load status. Then you're gonna check the table metadata. So metadata is a data about data, right? So you want to make sure you want to check you want to check what columns are in the table and their data types, how many fields are loaded, right? You want to make sure that what you have matches what you uploaded, right? Make sure no columns got omitted, everything loaded as expected. You're gonna use SQL to analyze data, and good news, DB2 does not consume hours. So for the SQL, you can work, you can run that service day and night. All right? You're gonna write meaningful queries that return perhaps totals, subtotals, etc. Then you're gonna load data into R, but wait a minute, R does consume capacity hours, 1 hour, right? Then 1 hour per clock hour. Then you're gonna analyze the data in R and you're gonna interpret your findings and you're gonna reflect on experiment limitations. So today is, what date is it today? July 2nd. Yesterday, you should have received 10 hours, right? You have 10 hours. Everybody should have 10 hours if you have not used them. 10 capacity hours, that's for R, okay? What is DB2 on cloud? It's a database. You got up to 200 megabyte of the data storage space, and it's used for built-in analytics, right? You can use it. Well, in theory, before, in the past, you could read data straight from DB2 to R. Right now, not the case, but in the past, you could read data from DB2 database in R and do analysis. So it has built-in performance in memory technology. So, like, as you know, in some databases like Oracle, the analysis are run where? On disk, right? For the DB2, the analysis are done in memory. And you don't load the entire data set. You only load part of the data that you are processing, right? So that's called something the prefetching. You prefetch the data just before it's needed. and no decompression required. And there is something called data skipping. So it skips the data not relevant to particular query, right? So you're using the DB2 on the cloud. It's a database, okay? Some analysis that can be done in R, the trend analysis. You can do you can do term association. You can do decision trees, clustering, hierarchical clustering, and well, my favorite one, to be honest, is network of terms, right? So you can identify perhaps a subset of terms that appear together in the same post, etc. Right? So you can run analysis natively in the databases, right? Then in general, it's possible to connect internal sources to DB2. Just know that it's possible, okay? Caution, if you delete the service, you might lose your work. So I went ahead and uploaded the data, right? And then if I go and delete my service, the data that I uploaded will be gone, right? If I would have to add the service again, and I will need to upload my data again. So just keep it in mind. But sometimes, once in a while, things happen, right? So the server goes down. If the DB2 is down, you have several options. You can wait for it to be back up, or you can add a new instance, hoping that it's going to add to another server node, and hoping that that node is up, right? Because the way it works is the server is a distributed, it contains multiple nodes. So my account and your account might be on different nodes. Sometimes DB2 service could be down for me, but it could be working for you because of the different server node, right? So sometimes if problem occurs, add a new instance, there is a high chance that your account will be added to new node, you know. Well, but if I don't ask you to do that, please don't. Okay, ask first. What is service credentials? Remember that when you added the service, right? Getting started, service credentials, right? So that basically, it does several parts. So what is this? This is your schema. This is your username. In general, if you connect other services, you would have been using this username and password if you were going to connect other services to the database, right? Then you have the host, right? So that's a location of the server, right? So just know that that's part of the credentials. In the credentials, you have the host where the service is located. You've got your username, which is also your schema name, right? And your password for the service. Just know what that is. All right. And when you manage, you click on go to UI that launches the service. And where is the service located? It's in my IBM Cloud in the resource. See, this is IBM Cloud, right? This is not the cloud pack. This is IBM Cloud. You have the resource list, and when you add the service, it's going to take a little bit of time to provision. Well, I know I have multiple instances of DB2, but most of them are no longer working because what happens is if you don't use it for a certain number of days, it's deactivated, right? But see, when you click, it's going to launch this manage page, and you click and go to UI. I already click and go to UI. So see, this is a home page, right? This is the page. When you launch the instance, you're going to be you're going to go to this page, right? Of DB2. So you got the service credential. Well, this is the data that we're going to look at today. This is the hotel's data. It has the address, the hotel category, the country, city. Well, why am I giving you this? Because I'm going to give you a copy of this data. And for you, if you want to follow along, if you want to load the data, you would need to make this adjustment. You would need to adjust the column length. And I troubleshooted all of that for you, okay? What happens is when you upload the data, it's gonna look at the first subset, maybe first X number of rows, and it will try to guess the data type, but for some reason it doesn't guess it correctly. The value is longer than it guessed. So here is what you need to make changes to the data types, right? Those are the columns that you need to adjust. So I loaded the data already. So if I go back to the data, I already loaded it. For some unknown reason, well, in the past, I could click here, right? I could select the schema and I could see my tables. Something is wrong. Today, I can't. But here is a workaround. Let me show you a workaround here. To see the tables non-programmatically, well, I was smart. I saved the load history, right? I saved the load history. I can click on my load history here. This is my load history. This is for the hotels review. And I can click on view table. That works, see? Well, if I click on the view table here, that shows me what my data, right? So this is a hotel data. See, address, the category, the city, country, latitude, longitude, name, postal code, province, review date, right? So now I need to scroll here. This is a sentiment. Please note that the values of the sentiment here are different from the values of the sentiment in the airline data. Here I've got slightly positive, positive, negative, positive, and there are also missing values. Today I'll show you how to work with missing values in SQL, okay? Now this is a review text, right? See, that's a text of the actual reviews that people left. This is a review title, right? Then you have the user who left the review, right? See, those are the columns. This is the review user. The review user city of the user, right? That's a user, and this is the province, the province where user lives, right? So that's the data. Notice that there are a lot of missing values, right? So we need to know how to handle missing values. You do need to know how to handle missing values for assignment 3, okay? So this is a data load. Well, original hotel file was bigger, but I ran into some issues, so I had to take the subset. Anyways, in the data load, very important. When you take a screenshot, you need to show the number of rows in the original table, how many rows were loaded, how many rows were rejected. Then you need to show the table name and the schema, right? So if I go to the load history, well, that was the airline table, right? I see how many rows were read from the file, how many rows loaded, errors, warnings. That, well, there are no errors, no warnings because I fixed all of this. Some issues that original file had was the new line character. So to fix the new line character, that piece I had to fix it in Excel. If you search for control, you hold control key and type J. Control J catches the new line characters. I had to remove all of the new line characters for you. Then I opened the file in the text pad and fixed the date formatting, and also deleted the new line character at the end. So that's what I did on my end for you. So you got the clean file, and that should be working, all right? Remember, I'm not gonna reload the data, but when you loaded the data, what you specify the source. The source is a file that you use to load. Target is a table name where the data is loaded, right? Okay. So that's that. And programmatic load validation. I'm gonna show you a little bit different. And so let's go to the SQL here. This is SQL, right? Well, first of all, you have to check how many rows are in the hotel table, right? So you're gonna do select. Remember the select, the query, it's a query. The query must have what? The select clause and from clause. Select clause, you list the columns that you're selecting. From clause is from which table you're selecting. And this here, I want to do count star, right? So that's just gonna get the number of rows. This is a column alias, I put it in the quotes, right? So why do I have spaces here, but I put it in quotes, that's fine. And here, right, from, and this is my table name, hotel reviews, I'm gonna select this query. And from here, I need to select run selected. I want to run just one query. See what I see here? This is a history of query execution. I just ran this query. I want to click on this, and this is the results. This is the number of rows. Here, well, sys IBM, it's a schema name, and sys tables, this is a metadata table. It contains the information about the tables. In your assignment instructions, you're taught to do creator equals, and then in the quotes, in the single quotes, you put the name of the schema, right? So there are two ways to do this. One way to run this query is this. I'm going to just copy and paste. I'm going to copy and paste, right? You can say this, where a creator equals, and in here, in the quotes, I'm going to put this one. The schema name is what LFM. So this is a schema name, right? Next query, I can run it this way. I can put the schema name here, right? So system tables is a table about the tables. I can do this, and this is going to return the table name, who is a creator, which is me, right? And here, scissors data objects, scissors tables, and those are the tables that I have. That's another way to see the tables. Scissors airline sentiment is a table name. It's a table. I have two tables now. This is a creator, which is me. The time. This is a number of columns in the table. I selected this. This table is powerful. It has more columns, but I'm only interested in these columns. So I list the column names after the select from, and this is a where clause, right? Where creator is me. Another way to run this query is say system user. System user is a variable. It's going to pick up who runs the code right now. So if I give you a script like this, where it says system user, then you're not going to need to replace my schema name with your schema name. You can just take it and run it straight because it's going to pick up your schema name, right? So system user, at the time when the assignment was written, I did not know that piece. This is a new piece that I just learned a few days ago. I can say here system user. That will automatically pick up my schema, okay? So that will automatically pick up the schema, and the script can be run by anyone without editing, see? There we go. Then there is another table that stores information about columns. But here, I want to add another restriction. Remember, the where clause of a query can have two conditions, and table name is hotel reviews. I want to see the column information, but I want to limit myself to only table called hotel reviews. So see, those are the column names, right? That's how I see programmatically. Usually, I can see that not programmatically, right? Like I showed you, I went to the tables tab. Usually, I could see it, but something is wrong with the interface. There is an error at the application interface that stops me from seeing the table columns. However, I know how to do it programmatically. I don't need to rely on interface. I can do it. I can just run the query, right? And here you have two choices. You can put system user, it's going to pick up the name of your schema, or you can put your schema name in the uppercase, and you have to put it in quotes. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you look at the metadata table, things are stored in the uppercase. Table name, column names are stored in the uppercase in the metadata table. So know that piece. Okay? So that. There are more columns, but we're only worried about this table right now. Okay? You have to save the work, correct? That's not yes, you have to save the work. And see, I save it, right? I save it. I click save. And also, do yourself a favor. You have a notepad or something. Save the work on your local computer. See? So this is my hotel SQL, right? This is the code for today. I have it saved on my local PC. Because if something goes wrong with the service, sometimes it does, they have maintenance, you cannot launch the service, you're going to lose your SQL. So please, please, please do yourself a favor, save the local copy of this too, right, of the SQL code. Do not use Word, use TextPad or something. Okay, no worries, I'm glad you asked. This is an excellent question, we don't want to lose work, right? So let's go back. Well, this is a metadata, right? I'm showing you different ways because I figured it out that you can put system_user here. So then if I give you that code, you don't need to edit it with your schema name because system user picks up your schema name, okay? I did not know that piece at the time when the assignment was written. That's something I figured out recently, okay? Now, if you need to override the table, when you upload the new table, there is an option to override, but that will not change the structure. Suppose that you did something wrong, right? And you need to override the table. Do it programmatically, actually. You need to drop the table. If you load is wrong, well, in the past, I could just preview my tables here and I can select drop from the menu. Today, this is not working. I got an error, right? When I clicked on the tables, when I clicked on my schema, I tried to preview tables. Today, I'm getting an error. It's not working. So what you need to do is to remove all data from the table, you run this command, truncate table, and then put table name, immediate. This command will remove all data from the table and also will reclaim the space, okay? This is how to remove data from the table programmatically. You truncate the table, okay? Truncate table name, immediate. It will remove data and will reclaim all the space. I'm not gonna run it because I don't want to delete what I loaded, okay? Now, if you want to remove the table entirely, you have to run this code, drop table, hotel reviews, I called it. But anyway, drop table and table name. If you did the load wrong, right? If the load failed, if you accidentally open the file, open the CSV file before uploading it, right? You messed up. What you'll need to do is you need to drop the table before you can run the load again successfully. You need to drop the table. I don't say delete, note, my vocabulary, the word is drop. What drop does, it removes the table structure, right? Today, you cannot do this. For some reason, you cannot do this. Just click on the table name and select drop. It's not working. So that's why I'm always prepared. I gave you how to do it programmatically. You're going to have the slides. If something went wrong during the load, you need to run this code, drop table, and then put the table name, okay? To drop the table. That will completely remove the table from the schema and reclaim the space, okay? Drop table, and then put table name. If you do delete command only removes the data. Good interview question. What's the difference between delete, drop, and truncate? So know that. right? Truncate remove just the data. It does not remove the table structure. And truncate cannot be undone. Nothing gets written in a, there is something called in a database, there is something called the redo log, right? There is a logging in a database level. When you delete, when you run the delete, the space is not reclaimed right away, right? And delete in general, delete statements can be undone if you are DBA, right? If you're a DBA. Delete does not delete the table structure, does not reclaim the space right away. Truncate reclaims the space, cannot be undone, right? But it doesn't remove the table structure. Delete does not remove the table structure either. When you do the drop, you remove the table structure, see? So, but delete leaves the empty table. Truncate leaves the empty table, okay? But it's a matter of the space if it gets reclaimed. Delete does not reclaim table space. Truncate reclaims the table space. So just know that piece. It's a good interview question. You might see that if you get a job, something has to do with a database, you might see that question, okay? So this is, okay, at some point in the past, when you load the data, you need to take a screenshot. In the past, that page was gone. Today, good news, if you did not take a screenshot of the data load, you can get back to the data load. So see this data, you have this tab called load history, and you can always get back to this history. See this? And you have this table, right? Oh, there is here. See this? You can delete table here. But please don't do this. I don't like the vocabulary they use. Do you know why? Well, because delete actually deletes the data. Delete does not delete the table structure, right? In general, you want to say drop table because drop removes the structure. Delete just removes the data. So to be honest, I don't like the vocabulary that they use here, but that's me, Okay, back. Anyways, just know the correct vocabulary. Drop means remove the table structure and data. Delete is just to remove the data. To truncate means remove the data and reclaim the space that was occupied by the table, okay? Now, select statements. Remember, select is a comma delimited list of columns that you want in the output. From is a comma delimited list of tables from which you're selecting the data. And you can specify, if you're selecting data from multiple tables, you can specify the join condition in the from clause as well, okay? Where you specify the condition for filtering rows, also the table join conditions. Well, in this case, there are no joins. You're working with only one table, all right? Group by is a delimited list of grouping columns. You have seen it before this semester where you group something, right? Like, for example, I want to list the number of how many reviews I have for each sentiment value. So I'm going to be grouping by the sentiment value, right? Having clause is to filter out the groups. You want to filter the groups. Like, for example, I'm going to get the counts, how many tweets I have for each sentiment values. But I want to see only sentiment values with more than 100 posts, perhaps, right? Something like that. So having know this it's a good interview question also. What's the difference between where and having? Where clause filters individual rows, right? Having clause is used for filtering groups. Or for example, suppose that there are multiple sessions of data 650, right? And I want to see the session where average score for assignment 1 is above 90%. So what do I need to do is, first of all, I have to have a query. I have to group, right, by the assignment in the session. I want to calculate the average, assignment 1 grade, and then in a having clause, I want to specify having average grade, whatever greater than 90, right? So having clause is going to filter out the groups. Where clause is filtering out specific rows, right? The spelling of the table name must match the spelling of the table name in the database, in exactly the column names. It must have correct spelling. Otherwise, you're going to be getting SQL errors, right? If you misspell the column, like for example, sentiment, if you miss the letter T in a word in a column named sentiment, you're going to get an error because there is no valid column name, right? The column name is invalid. So you need to watch out. And remember that every select statement must have at least select and from to be valid, right? You cannot have a select statement if you don't specify where you're selecting it from and what you're selecting right? So just know that piece. Okay. So this is one of the examples. Let's go back here to the SQL. Okay, so we look at this. You know that SQL where clause can have multiple conditions. You can have or condition. If you have an or, it means that is the first condition true or the second true or both, right? At least one condition must be true. This is another example where you have two conditions in the where clause. I want to select categories, name, review text, review username, review rating from hotels review, and I want to select where rating is neutral. This is case sensitive over here. Why is it case sensitive? Because if I spell it neutral in uppercase, it's not going to recognize. I'm comparing the values, right? Values comparison is case sensitive. I could do something like this here. I could convert this to the uppercase and put it in the uppercase here. That would be the right thing to do, right? Here, this is a pattern matching. What I'm doing here is I want to say that a username, review's username contains the word traveler. How do I do contains? I use like. This here, it means any number of any characters and any number of any characters, right? Contains the word traveler. So let's do this. Let's run this. Run selected. Let's see. So that's the last one. I click here on the results. Well, what does that do? I can also click here, open the results in the new window. So see that this is my results. How do I verify that it's correct? Correct. Well, if I see something like review rating slightly negative, it means it's wrong. Because one of my conditions said what? Review rating is neutral, right? I need to say neutral only. Traveler. Notice that what I did was I converted it to uppercase for comparison, and I said contains traveler. So I have a traveler, right? I can sort this. Do you see this? What is this? Traveler lady 444? I said contains traveler. So that means in the like, see that wildcard? It means any number of any characters, right? It means there could be 0 characters before travelers, right? So see that matches. Traveler. See? Teacher, traveler, 28. See, this here, they match the comparison, right? But what if I found something that does not contain the word traveler? It means that I need to go back to drawing board. It means that my query is wrong, right? I don't want to see anything here that does not contain traveler in this column. So you need to learn how to verify your work, right? Okay. Next thing, what I'm doing, I want to know what my distinct sentiment values are. So let's see, let's run this, run selected, and here will be, take a look at this. What is this? Why is this blank? Well, that means that I have some records where my sentiment value is not specified. I have some missing values and I need to make a decision right now. How am I going to handle my missing values? Am I going to treat them as unknown, right? Or am I going to just ignore, in my queries, am I going to ignore the records with missing values, right? And the problem is this. I'm going to run another query right now to show you a little problem. So here, this query is going to return the rating. Here, it's going to, I want to see how the number of times that rating appears, right? From hotel reviews, and I'm grouping by what review rating. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. And notice that I'm not doing count star in here. I put exactly the column name. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. Take a look at the problem right now. Well, what is this? Why is it 0? Because count function ignores missing values. Count function ignores missing values. This is wrong. And if I take these numbers and add them up, they're not going to add to the number of rows in the table. It's wrong. Why? Because I have some, I believe there are 80 rows where rating is not specified. So somehow I need to handle missing values, right? And we're going to talk about it now. But before I do this, see this? This is just showing you how many times, oh, this is how many times each hotel mentioned, right? But in here, this is how many times you mentioned each rating, how many times each rating appears, right? Well, let's look at now what? Let's see. How many records are missing review rating? Let's see this. So how do I find out? I need to say in a where clause, I need to say this, where review rating is null, right? What will that do? Let's find out. That's supposed to show me how many rows are missing review rating, right? I want to do select count where this is missing. Why do I put count star? Because count star does not ignore missing values. See this? Count star does not ignore missing values. So see this is going to show you 18, right? On the other hand, if I put review rating in here, there would be a problem. It would not return the right result because count is ignoring. Well, if I put count, if I put the column name explicitly here, it's going to ignore missing values. If I put count star, it's going to count missing values here. I want to see, in this case, I want to see how many values are missing. I know that I have 80 records in here missing the review. So what am I going to do? Oh, well, let's try this. Let's put NVL in here. NVL function is going to recode, it's going to treat. If review rating is null, it's going to treat it as unknown. We're going to use a function called NVL. NVL function is going to code review rating as unknown. And here I can make a hypothetical column. I can say count 1. Why not? I can do that, right? So run selected. Let's see what's going to happen right now. Well, I know this is a little bit of advanced, but what I did was I masked. I put NVL function here to treat this column as the word unknown. If review rating is null, I want this to be treated as review rating unknown, okay? And this is how many times. So this is how many times each review rating appears, right? But if review rating is null, I'm using NVL function to treat it as unknown. So just know you have this function called NVL. And this is grouped by review rating. I can also put group by this whole thing, and I can do that. That will work too. But if I put here instead of 1, if I do this, now I'm gonna have a problem. See, if I do this, let me show you the problem. Right? I'm gonna have a problem. Do you know why? Because it does not count. It see this, let's try this. Run selected, there's gonna be a problem. I expect to see a problem. See this, it did not count it. It counted 0. You know why? Because it's ignoring the mission values. Right? If I put the column name in here, it's not gonna count the mission values. So I can put this hypothetical 1 in here, or I can put a star in here. That should do it. Right? Run selected. Let's see, that will do it. Right? Or I can put this. I can take this piece in here. Control C, Control V. I can do that. That will do it too. Okay? But know that count function, the big difference that if you put the column name directly, it's gonna ignore the mission values. Okay? So this works, right? This works, but that does not work. So this one is a problem, okay? If I do that, and instead of this, I just put what? Review rating, right? If I just put this is a problem. This is not gonna work because of the mission values. It's gonna show me 0 because count function, when it specifies a column name directly, it ignores mission values, okay? Well, just know that. This is wrong, okay? You want to pay undivided attention in assignment 3, how you do these queries. Because you're gonna be asked, in the data set, you're gonna be asked to produce the query with the counts, all right? You want to make sure that the total adds up to the number of rows. If not, you need to specify. You want to explicitly specify in your paper, specify how you're dealing with mission values. Are you ignoring records with mission values? If you do, you might miss some important data, right? You might not be analyzing some important data. It's up to you, right? I want to treat it as unknown and still want to do analysis, right? So this one is the problem, right? Problem. Okay, you might be wondering now, what is double line? Double line like this is a comment in SQL. This is comment in SQL. Mission values in SQL are stored as represented as null. Remember that. In R, it is an A. In SQL, it's null, right? So see, this one is a problem. And the problem is, see this review rating, it returned as 0 because mission values are ignored. So you have several ways to do it. Like this is okay. Like this is okay. Or you can put stars. That is okay too. Okay. Now, next query is going to show you how many times, this one, how many times each hotel is mentioned, right? How do you do this? You're going to do hotel name, but then again, remember the assumption is there are no mission values. If there are mission values, this will be a problem. Doing this way is a problem, right? Because counting like this, it ignores mission values. But let's take a look at this. And the category is hotel. I want specifically look at the hotels in there. So let's see. So this is going to show me the hotel name and how many times it was mentioned. Now, suppose that I want to change my query a little bit. I want to list hotels only that were mentioned more than 50 times. How do I do it? Do I put the where clause? No. I use group by clause. I use having clause. Because what I want to do is I don't want to sort. I don't want to filter the individual records. I want to filter these records that were returned by the query, right? I want to filter these groupings. So what you do is you do this. You have to say having count name, having this count greater than 50, right? So now I'll do that, right? Having count greater than 50, run selected, okay? So this is the last query. See that one? I only see more than 50. If I see something like 45 in here, I need to go back to the drawing board. My query is wrong then, right? So just know that this is in the slides. How many times? This is a grouping column, see? Name is a grouping column. Grouping column, it needs to go to group by clause, right? That's what it's showing. Then we're just gonna look at the next one is just this one. You can add what it does in here. This little query, it says that I can add another grouping column. I can list the province and then I can list the rating and do the column. So and do the count. When I add another column to the select clause, I need to add the same column to the group by clause. So I can have many columns, right? But each non-aggregate column in select clause must appear in a group by clause. Remember that, all right? You have seen it in your other assignment where you asked the ungraded exercise. Remember? Ungraded exercise where you asked to group by 3 columns. No problem, you can add the third column and then add the third column to the group by clause and you're done, right? You good? All right? And you can produce a nice summary like this. So this is a little bit advanced query. What I'm trying to do in here is this. I want to have 1 row per hotel. I want to have 1 row per hotel. And I want to have a column called positive, right? And I want to have a column called slightly positive. So anyways, I want to have 1 column for each rating, and I want to list the counts, okay? Like for example, in bed and breakfast, right? Bed and breakfast hotel, it has 18 positive reviewed, 12 slightly positive reviewed, 12 neutral, 7 slightly negative, 5 negative, 0 unknown, and total 54. I want to produce a report, let's say like this. How do I do this? Well, this is a little bit complex, and let's look at this. Let's look at this complex. Scroll here. So first of all, I'm gonna do the preparation query. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to create a column called positive. Well, I'm gonna select the name. I'm gonna select review rating. I'm gonna create a new column called positive. Not adding to the table, but in the output, I'm gonna have a column and I'm gonna have a case statement. And I'm gonna say this: when review rating is equal positive, I want to display 0. I want to display 1. Otherwise, I want to display 0. I'm adding another column and I want to say this: if its review rating is slightly positive, then show 1. Otherwise, show 0, and the column name is slightly positive. It's just a query, right? Then I'm gonna say this: case statement. When review rating is neutral, then return a 1. Otherwise, return a 0, and a call column neutral. See this slightly negative, and same thing for each value, right? I'm doing the same thing for each value. And if it's null, then 1, otherwise 0, unknown. So here I'm sorting it by the hotel name, and I want to display nulls last. Nulls last means I want to show the missing values last. So let's run this. Let's run this query here. Let's see what happens. Right? This is important query. And the purpose is to isolate the A students here, okay? So I'm going to run selected. Let's look at what this query does. Okay, so I'm going to click on this here. Well, take a look at this. So this is the ambassadors in and suits, right? So what it did right now, that's fine. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to show one line per hotel yet. This is a preparation. I'm preparing. So what you're doing here is this. For each of these ratings, you want to know if it's positive, right? So the first rating is positive. So I have a 1 in a column called positive, right? That's what I'm doing right now. This one is neutral. I'm having a 1 in a column called neutral, right? Slightly negative, I'm having a 1 and slightly negative. So now, let's guess. I know how to produce this, right? I know how to produce this. How can I know to calculate? So now my next goal is to have 1 row per hotel, and I want to get the count. How many positives do I have? So what do I need to do is I need to take the sum. I need to take the sum of this column. If I take the sum of this column, I will know the number of positive rating. If I take the sum of this column, I'm going to know the number of slightly positive rating. If I take a sum of this column, I'm going to know the number of neutral, right? Etc. So I add one step in here, sum. See, I remove the rating, I added the sum, and Jesus, I'm going to list one line for hotel. So I have to have a group by clause, right? And I'm going to take the sum of which column. And then it's going to give me what I want, right? Just know how to do this query. Please know how to do this query. You will have to do something like this in assignment 3. This is a very good query, and trust me, I did something like that at work. So this is a query, right? You're going to list. So here, very important, the sum of this column needs to match the total, right? Also, earlier, I ran the query how many times the hotel was mentioned. So this last column total needs to match the count that my earlier query returned. I ran the query to check how many times each hotel was mentioned in the reviews, right? So the result returned by that query, those counts must match my counts here, right? And I need to check why. Oh, because it's only it shows only the first record. But I do know that there are a total of 80. There are a total of 80, okay, in here. I need to check. But see, those are the results, those are the details that shows you the query that I ran to get the results, right? So here, if review rating is null, then 1, otherwise it's 0, and I took the sum to get the count of unknown. That's a total, is just the count, right? Total is just the number of rows. It's count because it's a number of rows, right? And I want to sort by name, case insensitive, and I want to display the missing values last, okay? Because maybe sometimes they're missing, maybe there are some records missing the hotel name, but there are reviews of something. I want to show that too, you know. So just know how to do this complex query, all right? Okay. So that's in here, case statement. Next topic is a subquery. Subquery is a query inside another query. And a subquery may return a single value, right? Like, for example, I want to list the students who got assignment 1 grade above the average. So I need a subquery that returns the average grade for assignment 1, right? So I have one value. I can return the values list, right? The subquery can return the list of specific list of values, or it can return the virtual table. Like if I wanted to, I could create a view to store the result of that big query, right? That big preparation query. I could create a view, right? And then select from that view. I could do that, right? And you can put a subquery in a select from, where, and having clause of the main query. You cannot put the subquery in the order by, and you cannot put the subquery in the group by. If you believe that you can, I need to see working example, okay? Well, a very good example of the subquery is a single value query that you put in a where and a having clause, okay? But virtual table subquery usually good for the from clause. All right, so let's look at the example. Well, one example would be something like return the provinces that do not have any positive ratings, right? Which provinces do not have any positive rating? So what the inner query does here is that it selects the provinces that have at least one positive rating. Then the outer query says this: you select the province where a province not in a list of provinces that have at least one positive rating. So this is a list subquery. And I believe I might have that in here. So let's see. I might have. Well, this is an example of the subquery of a query with two grouping columns, right? But if I scroll down, oh, it's in here. So see this, like, for example, in here, oops, when I scroll down, this one is to list the hotels that do not have allocation in Georgia, right? This is different. It shows here I want to list the hotels that are not located in Georgia. So in a query, it's going to find which hotels are located in Georgia, right? So this one run selected. Let me see if I can run just a subquery. See this one, it gives me the hotels that are located in Georgia. And then in here, I'm going to say where name not in, right? So I want to list the hotels that are not in the list of hotels returned by this inner query, right? In another word, literally, I could just run this inner query, take the result, and plug into here. But I don't want to be running this inner query separately all the time and plugging in the results. So I just plug it in this query, right? See, same thing here. This is an example in the slides, right? So what I can do, see this here, this little query returns the provinces that have the provinces that have at least one positive rating, right? So this is a list, right? I got a list of provinces, 61, that has at least one positive rating. And this one is going to list the provinces that do not have. See, so what I have to say not in, right? Not in that list. So take a look at this. You notice this Arizona province? So now if I run this query, if Arizona is returned, it means my query is wrong. See? Well, this is how you review your work, right? So I've got this 29. I need to make sure that none of my 29 returned here gets returned by the subquery. This is how you self-check the work, right? Always check the work. Okay. Well, what this one is doing, here, it's just going to return this is just going to return the number of positive counts. So let's run this query. This one is just going to return the number of positive reviews per hotel, right? This will just going to return the number of positive reviews per hotel. See, good so far, right? This one is a little bit more complex. What I want to see here is this. I want to list the hotels that have above average number of positive posts. So this here, over here, I got the number of positive posts per hotel, right? This query here returns the number of positive posts per hotel. Now, I want to find out the average number of positive posts per hotel. How do I do it? I take this query here, I use it in a from clause and find the average, right? So this is a subquery in a from clause. I just calculate the average here, run selected. So what does this do? Above here, I had a query where I calculated the number of positive reviews per hotel. Now I want to know the average number of positive posts per hotel. Now I'm going to make it harder. I want to list the hotels that have the above average number of posts. How do I do this? Well, I have this query that returns the average, right? I need to plug in this query into the having clause. See this? I plug it into the having clause. See this? I'm going to run this query right now. What I did was I took that query that returns the average number of positive posts, and I plug it into the having clause of this query. So let's see what's happening. I need to make sure that all counts are above 22, right? Well, because earlier I found out that the average is 22, right? I could plug in 22 here, but I want the query to be dynamic. I don't want to be running this piece here and plugging in all the time, right? So I gradually build this subquery. My first step was what? To find out how many positive reviews are there per hotel. Next step, I found the average number of positive reviews. So I know the average, right? I have a query that returns the average. It's working as expected. Then I take that query and plug it in here, okay? You have to work in steps. You do it gradually, okay? Just know this. Well, this is a virtual table. This is what I just did. This is a virtual table. I put this in a from clause. The subquery returns a virtual table, and I took the average. And, I plug it in here. Single value subquery. It goes to the having clause, right? Oh, for RStudio, very important, you want to select the collect environment. There is only one environment, thank goodness. At some point, there were 3 environments, and students selected wrong environment, and it's just gonna use hours in no time. So make sure the environment that you're using, it consumes 1 capacity unit hour. Okay. RStudio, you want to check disk utilization. If you're like me, if you like cute visualizations, you want to, so you created a visualization. Please delete ones you don't need. You create a plot, right? Take a screenshot, save the screenshot, and delete the plots. Because what happens is that the project size grows big. If it's too big, you won't be able to launch RStudio again. In RStudio, remember that you have environment window, and environment window has 2 views, list view and grid view. When you select the grid view, you can see the object sizes. Before you end the session, I recommend deleting all of these matrices. See the matrix M in this screenshot here, it's big. That was for the network of terms analysis, I believe. You want to delete because your workspace goes big. Next time when you try to launch RStudio, you might not be able to because it's trying to restore the workspace. And if you have a lot of large objects, so before you log off, you want to do the cleanup, delete what you don't need, remove objects from memory that you no longer need. You want to also save your work. Please do yourself a favor, save R code on a local file too, right? Just in case, to be safe. Then you also want to stop the service. You know how to stop the service from last 2 sessions, right? Exiting RStudio does not stop the service. You want to stop, so you're not consuming the hours. You have 10 hours. RStudio consumes 1 hour. Okay. Then see, this is a screenshot. It shows how to stop. You want to look if there is environment running. You want to stop this. You can stop it from the project, or you can stop it from the admin page. Right? Remember, I showed you that piece. Make sure there are no active environments. Okay. Well, this is just a little piece about network of terms. It's not explained in a Word file, but if you do a network of terms and if it works in a current image, you want to look at the communities detection. So basically, community detection is looking at the subsets of terms that appear together, right? So that's just the code. It was added to the code, but it's not explained in the Word file. One thing to keep in mind is that the code files that you get, it's just giving you examples of methods that you can run. For assignment 3, you don't need to run all of them. You pick 2 or 3 and focus on 2 of 3, okay? You're not going to have time and resources to run all methods. Don't do this. Do not just plug in the code to your data. It won't work, okay? Please, please, please. And please make sure that you're running the method in light of assignment 3 data. When you get to assignment 3, right? The code that you're running for airlines data, right, is not going to work for the data in assignment 3. Maybe a good example is association rules. If you reuse the code as is, you're going to get only 2 rules. So if you're using association rules, you need to tweak the method input parameters. You have a homework to do. You need to research, you need to review the association rule method input parameters in R. Okay? Because the examples that you're given, it's using the default. If you run it with defaults for assignment 3 data, you're only gonna get 2 rules. So you have to tweak the input parameters for association rules method. It might not make sense at the moment what I'm saying right now, but it's a warning. You will need to tweak the input parameters. You cannot run with the default, okay? Just telling you that. So this is just some troubleshooting. If you do not see the credentials page, then you're probably launching the service from Cloud Pak instead of IBM Cloud. You need to go to IBM Cloud. Remember, you had a question difference between IBM Cloud and Cloud Pak. From Cloud Pak, you cannot do any of the admin stuff, right? You need to be in IBM Cloud to do the admin stuff. Adding credentials is considered an admin stuff. So you must launch the service from IBM Cloud in order to see the credentials block, right? Troubleshooting. Well, see, this is one example here. Here, the issue is they're trying to use inspect function and they're getting errors. Why? Well, the problem is inspect function appears in a rules package, and also it's appearing in a text package, in a text analysis package called TM. Text mining package. And if you have 2 packages in memory, you're going to have an issue, right? So what you need to do is you need to qualify the function name with a package name when this happens. If you get this error, you need to qualify the function name with a package name. Like for example, I want to call inspect function from a rule package. This is a rules column, and this is you put inspect, right? This is a function name. Now, again in here, rules 1 through 15. It works for airline data because there are more than 15 rules, right? You're fine. But this is not going to work for a debate data that you're going to use for assignment 3 if you run the method with default parameters, because the default parameters return only 2 rules. You need to tweak the input parameters for a rules method. If you choose to use a rules method on assignment 3 data, okay? Just know it. You cannot run it with default. It's your homework to review. Remember, in R, you can put question mark, right, and the command name. It's going to give you the help page. Review what input parameters this method takes if you're using it, okay? Now, this is another example. It's just an example. I spelled the tweet ID incorrectly, right, in SQL. I'm going to get this error. Why? Because there is no column tweet ID without underscore. There is a tweet underscore ID. How do I do it? I'm going to check the table metadata. I need to check the actual column name in the table and make sure that you're spelling, right? So that's just one example of an error that you may get. You have to spell correctly. And this is another error. Airline sentiment, I missed the underscore after error. I missed the underscore, right? And you want to make sure that the table name is spelled exactly as the table name that you have. Otherwise, you're going to get an error, right? Well, those are some additional tips. Please save SQL and R code on your PC. You need to use the Notepad or TextPad or something like that for the SQL code. Or you can use Notepad++, but please don't use the rich source editor like Microsoft Word because it introduces bad characters, okay? Oh, very important, you have to work on ungraded exercises. And the trick is this, you have a quiz. There are some questions on a quiz, on the output from the ungraded SQL exercises. There are some ungraded SQL exercises, right? And there are quiz question on the output of that exercise. Well, if you can get the answer differently just by running R, okay, but you need to run this, okay? You need to follow instructions and you need to do the ungraded exercises. Please do yourself, because for the SQL part, there are no restriction on the capacity hours. You can, DB2 does not consume capacity hours. So SQL, please use as many as you need, okay? Go beyond example, but make sure that you meet the minimum first. You don't want to be installing those a lot of packages and corrupting the memory, right? Going beyond does not mean installing a bunch of packages and doing something, right? And please remember this, the best way to get it done is to begin. You need to get started. Oh, sometimes it's the hardest part for everybody is to get started. Once you get started, you get into it and you're gonna get it done, okay? Well, those are just some useful arguments. Remember that for the packages, library is going to list the installed packages. Search is going to list the packages that are in memory. Package can be installed, but it's not available until it's in memory, right? Remember that part. This is how to clear the console window. This is how to remove all columns, everything, all the variables from memory. And then remember that combine command, right? How to combine individual values into vector. I just listed some of the commands that you might find helpful. All right, so now let's go to questions. Do you have any questions here? Anything? If you believe anything that I may have forgotten to say, anything that you may think you may need for the assignment, anything, please. Questions? Remember, DB2 does not consume hours. Good news, right? You can use it as many as you want. As many as fits in your schedule, let's say. Right? RStudio consumes hours, 1 per hour. Okay? Any questions on what was covered today, what was not covered today? Anything? Hopefully you started working on this assignment, the sentiment analysis tutorial. And little secret, how to get more time on assignment 3. Okay, I'll tell you. As soon as you finish this tutorial, right, assignment 3 should become available, right? If you finish this earlier, you win in yourself time for assignment 3. Assignment 3 is not available until you finish this assignment. Remember this. As soon as you submit this assignment, you're going to have access to assignment 3. And we're going to have another session in few weeks. That session is going to be on chatbots, okay? We're going to have one more session before the semester ends. So, okay, any questions, please? No questions? Okay, well, if there are no questions, then I'm going to call it a night. And you're going to get what you're going to get, the recording, the slides, you're going to get the SQL code, you're going to get the data, okay? I'm going to give you the data, what else data that I used today, okay? So you can practice the code that I'll give you, okay? Anything else? No questions, then I'm going to end this session. And guys, enjoy this assignment then. And I will see you in few weeks, right? We're going to have one more session. Okay. I'm going to end the recording.